Buongiorno a tutti. Io parlo inglese. I could try to speak Sardinian language, but we'll avoid that. Excellencies, distinguished guests and panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to start by thanking and congratulating the organizer of this forum, to organize the forum, and to invite us, the European Economic and Social Committee. I can tell that, in my opinion, you make the right choice to invite the institution of the EU which represent the civil society, the economic and social actors, the private sector, the young people, the workers, the employers, the NGOs. Because we are first, I think, a unique institution of the EU, but it's composed not by politicians and not by civil servants, but by actors of, I would say, civil society life. Of course, the European Economic and Social Committee is not a peacemaker institution. We are not directly a conflict resolution body, but in a certain way we can help to resolve conflicts by the means of the civil society and the private sector, by dialogue. You know, the European Union has been built on this concept of dialogue and of active participation of the civil society and the social partners. This is why it exists an institution of the civil society and of the social partners. The European Union has been built in a devastated Europe. Civil war, we can call that. Conflict, refugees. And as you mentioned that today, and as the distinguished fellow panelist mentioned that in the morning and now, the reason of terrorism, the reasons of insecurity today in the Middle East are just exactly that. Ethnic conflicts, non-resolved conflicts were mentioned today in the morning very clearly. Refugees, poverty, lack of human development. This is why social economic development is not a tool to fight against the threat that we have today. This is the most important goal that we have to achieve if you want to fight not just against the actual threats, but to ensure a harmonious development in our region. We are an example, not the best one, just an example of how important it is in a difficult situation to try to come together, various nations and various populations. We have started like that, and this is the European Union projects. We are found on common values, but you notice that we don't want to impose one value or the other. We understand that in the European Union, between North and South, you have different way of organizing our society. And we have to understand that in the Mediterranean and the Gulf region. We don't want to impose 100% our values. We have common general values. These are very important. Human rights, women's rights, education, the question of participation of the civil society. But each society has the right to organize itself on its own way. Of course, the European Union's success was based at the beginning of its economic and social success, growth and jobs. When the European Union has brought to the European population jobs, a future, we had 70, 80, 90% of the population was supporting the European Union. It's not the case anymore now. You can ask why. Why? Because in the last 10 years, mainly, European Union was a synonym of austerity, deepening the gap between North and South, and so hurting their own values and lack of solidarity. So we have always to remember that. Another important point I will mention in our experience, of course, it's the model of regional integration, regional cooperation. European Union should not be, in my view, should not become a new imperium, wants to just to impose its interest. And I think in this Mediterranean Gulf region, it's particularly important that we present ourselves as the union which is open first to share its experience and to develop its cooperation, not just to be there to fight for its own interests. And regional cooperation should be the main message of the European Union in this region, the importance of regional cooperation, the importance of dialogue. Dialogue with the society first is what and where the economic and social actors are so important to be engaged, but not in imposing our own vision of a civil society. This is something that we always say, and we, in the European Economic and Social Committee, we have developed during the years ties with all our friends of the civil society of the Mediterranean region, and we like to develop them too with the Gulf region in a sense of respect, not to impose the kind of civil society that we have or the kind of model, but to respect the choice of the society there to have their own legitimate, qualified civil society, qualified by themselves, not by us. We have supported all the development of the European Union with a free trade agreement, which was mentioned by my friend here. This deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, which is the new name, which just means cooperation. It's very slow, just starting negotiation with Morocco and Tunisia, Jordan and others, but it takes too long, and we should be more ambitious to create a framework of cooperation. We think in the European Economic and Social Committee that this agreement should first focus not just on free movement of goods, of services, but of human potential, relation with question of skills, question of education, question of human resource to create facilities for young people to get a job. We are in the European Union, as you know, some part of our population are scared by the problem of migration. It's even a drama when you see today that from the beginning of this year, more than 3,000 persons unfortunately died in the Mediterranean Sea. It's a shame for all of us. And that people who are obliged to be refugees because there's no choice. When you see the situation in Iraq, in Syria, there are sometimes no other choice to get to some safer place and to come in the, I would say, in the arms of mafia, of people who will exploit them to bring them to Europe. So we have to develop a comprehensive human migration policy, of course, respecting the interests of both sides, but in the same time, the priority is to create jobs, a future for the young generation in the Mediterranean and Gulf region. We have to develop private sector. We have to support the capacity building of a civil society in the Mediterranean and Gulf region, and as I say, respecting their own values, respecting their own genuine civil society model. We have to, in that way, create what was presented before me by my fellow panelists, distinguished fellow panelists, this concept of a EU-Arab space, EU-Arab common with tools. It could be a forum, it could be a framework, this free trade agreement, with a win-win situation on both sides. This is the perspective that we have in the European Economic and Social Committee. And I would say, I'm from the south, you can see that. I'm even from a neighboring island, north from Sardinia, Corsica. And I think that if you see the trend of economic growth in the last years, 10 years, what you have seen, if that's growth in Europe, I've moved from the south or the center to the east, because they have developed there, between countries like Germany, Netherlands, Austria, a sort of co-industrialization framework, with exchange, free trade, integration of this country in the European Union, now soon free trade with a neighboring country like Ukraine, for example, have developed a lot of links. And at the same time, you have seen that growth has moved to these countries. And you have seen that in the southern Mediterranean country, European countries, like Portugal, where I was yesterday, Spain, France, Italy, Greece, we have suffered from this lack of space of cooperation, southern from us. So this interest of creating this new Euro-Arab, Euro-Mediterranean space of peace, of cooperation, of trade, of building capacity, of exchange of fuel, is not just a way to help to solve a migration question, like some people in Europe think, or just to promote stability. Is our own future, future of a Southern European, is also in the hands of better relation with the other side of the Mediterranean, with the Arab world, with the Gulf country. Thank you for your attention.